The 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, stood on the stage of a packed auditorium, addressing a gathering of parents from across the country. The event, titled Parenting in Modern America, was organized to bridge generational gaps and inspire families to foster strong bonds. Trump, now well into his 70s, was invited not as a politician but as a father, a role he considered one of his greatest honors. Being a parent, he began, his voice steady but reflective, is not about politics, business, or power. It's about nurturing the potential of a child and ensuring they grow into someone better than you ever were. He paused and smiled. And let me tell you about Barron. The audience leaned in, eager to hear personal anecdotes about Trump's youngest son, Barron Trump, now an 18-year-old with aspirations of his own. Trump's eyes glimmered as he spoke. Barron was never one to follow the crowd. Even as a child, he had this unique ability to observe the world differently. I remember when he was about 6, we were in New York City, and he saw a homeless man sitting on the curb. While most children his age might have ignored the scene or looked away, Barron tugged at my sleeve and said, "Why can't we help him, Dad?" That question stuck with me, Trump confessed. It wasn't just the words, but the innocence and sincerity behind them. Barron taught me something that day, a lesson about empathy and action. Even as president, I carried that lesson with me in policy decisions and humanitarian efforts. Trump shared a story from Barron's teenage years that resonated deeply with the audience. When Barron turned 15, he told me he wanted to play soccer seriously, not as a hobby, but with a vision to represent the U.S. one day. I'll admit I had my reservations. As a parent, you want your child to excel in areas you think are best for them. But Barron looked me in the eye and said, "Dad, I know you're used to winning in your own way, but this is my path. Let me show you I can win too." The room fell silent as Trump added, "That was one of the most humbling moments of my life. It reminded me that as parents, our role isn't to dictate our children's journey, but to support them in discovering their own." Barron's passion for soccer wasn't just about the sport. It was about discipline, teamwork, and resilience. I saw him wake up at 5 a.m. for practice, endure injuries, and keep going even when it seemed impossible. One day, after a particularly grueling match, I asked him why he pushed himself so hard. He looked at me and said, "Dad, you taught me that hard work builds character. This is me building mine." Trump's voice softened as he continued. I realized that while I had been teaching Barron life lessons, he had been teaching me just as many. His dedication reminded me that every generation has the power to inspire the one before it. Trump shifted his tone, growing more introspective. The world Barron grew up in was vastly different from the one I knew as a young man. Social media, technology, and a constant spotlight. It's a whirlwind for any kid, let alone the child of a public figure. Yet, Barron navigated it with grace. There was a moment when he was around 16 that stands out vividly in my memory. A video of him at a school soccer game went viral, and suddenly everyone had an opinion on his skills, his height, his demeanor. It was a barrage of praise and criticism, all at once. I worried about how he would handle it. But Barron, being Barron, took it in stride. He said to me, "Dad, people will talk no matter what. I can't control that. What I can control is how I play on the field and how I carry myself off it." The audience nodded, visibly moved. Trump let out a small laugh. At 16, he was giving me advice on handling criticism. "Can you believe that?" Trump continued. "Barron has always been a quiet leader, the kind of person who doesn't need to shout to be heard. When he was in high school, his soccer team faced a losing streak that lasted an entire season. Morale was low, and many of his teammates were ready to give up. One evening, I overheard Barron talking to his team captain on the phone. He said, "We're not defined by our losses. We're defined by how we bounce back. Let's focus on one goal, one game, one step at a time." The next game, I watched from the stands as Barron led his team with renewed energy. They didn't win that game, but they played with heart. By the end of the season, they had turned things around. It wasn't about the victories. It was about resilience and unity. Barron taught his teammates, and me, that leadership is about lifting others, even in tough times. Trump spoke about how he ensured Barron stayed grounded despite their family's fame and fortune. Melania and I always emphasized the importance of staying connected to one's roots. Every summer, we'd take Barron to Slovenia to visit Melania's family. There, he'd spend time with his grandparents, learn about their traditions, and hear stories of resilience from their past. Barron once told me, "Dad, knowing where we come from helps me understand where I want to go. It's wisdom like that, coming from an 18-year-old, that makes me believe the next generation will lead with integrity and purpose." As Barron approached his 18th birthday, Trump shared a heartfelt moment between father and son. We were sitting in the garden of Mar-a-Lago, watching the sunset, and I asked him what his dreams were for the future. Barron looked at me and said, "I want to make a difference, Dad, whether it's through soccer, community work, or something I haven't even discovered yet. I want to leave the world a little better than I found it." Trump paused, his voice thick with emotion. Hearing those words made me realize that every parent's ultimate goal is to raise a child who wants to contribute to the world. Barron's dreams are his own, but they reflect the values Melania and I tried to instill in him. Addressing the parents in the audience, Trump concluded with a heartfelt message. We often think our role is to mold our children, but more often than not, they end up shaping us. Barron has taught me about empathy, resilience, and the importance of following your passion. To every parent here, I say this: listen to your children. Support their dreams even if they're different from yours. Teach them the value of hard work, but also let them teach you the value of seeing the world through their eyes. And most importantly, remind them that their greatest legacy isn't their achievements. It's the lives they touch along the way. Trump's voice grew steadier as he recalled a defining moment in Barron's life. Last year, Barron received an invitation to speak at a youth leadership summit. He was hesitant at first. Public speaking isn't easy, especially for someone who values his privacy. But after some encouragement, he agreed. I'll never forget the speech he gave that day. He spoke about the power of mentorship, saying, "We're all shaped by the people who guide us, whether it's our parents, teachers, or friends. It's our responsibility to pass that guidance forward." As he spoke, I saw a maturity in him that reminded me why parenting is the most important role anyone can have. When he finished, the room gave him a standing ovation. But what mattered most to me wasn't the applause. It was the line of young people waiting to talk to him afterward, inspired by his words. Barron didn't just share a message, he shared his heart. Trump addressed the complexities of raising a child in the public eye. Many people assume that growing up in a high-profile family means a life of ease. But the truth is, it comes with its own challenges. Barron often felt the weight of expectations, not just as my son but as someone people looked up to. I remember a conversation we had when he was 17. He said, "Dad, people expect me to have everything figured out because of who you are. But I'm still learning, just like everyone else." I told him, "Barron, it's okay not to have all the answers. What matters is that you're asking the right questions and staying true to yourself." Trump paused, his expression softening. That's something every parent should remember. Our children aren't extensions of us. They're individuals with their own journeys. Our job is to guide them, not define them. One of the most poignant stories Trump shared was about a quiet evening at home. It was just the two of us sitting in the study. Barron had been reading a book on historical leaders, and he asked me, "Dad, do you think greatness is something you're born with, or something you work for?" It was a profound question, and I didn't have an easy answer. So I asked him what he thought. He said, "I think greatness is about what you do with the opportunities you're given. Some people are born with advantages, and others have to fight for them. But in the end, it's your choices that define you." I couldn't have been prouder. In that moment, I realized that Barron understood something it takes many people a lifetime to learn. Success isn't just about achieving. It's about growing and giving back. Trump also highlighted Barron's ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Barron has always been good at bringing people together. When he was 18, he organized a charity soccer match to raise funds for underprivileged kids who couldn't afford to play sports. He didn't just bring together professional athletes. He involved local kids, coaches, and families. It wasn't about the money raised, though that was impressive. It was about the sense of community he fostered. Watching him on that field, interacting with everyone, I realized that leadership isn't about standing above others. It's about standing with them. As Trump neared the end of his speech, he offered one final reflection. Barron's journey is far from over, and as a parent, I'm excited to see where it takes him. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The greatest legacy we leave isn't in the titles we hold or the wealth we amass. It's in the values we pass down to our children. To every parent in this room, your role is the most important in the world. Your children will look to you for guidance, strength, and love. And someday, they'll teach you lessons you never expected to learn. With that, Trump stepped back, his words lingering in the air like a promise. The audience erupted into applause, not just for the former president, but for the father who had shared his heart. Trump then shared a story about a pivotal moment in Barron's life that tested his character. When Barron was 17, he faced his first major setback. He was on track to join a highly competitive soccer league, one that could open doors to a professional career. But during the final selection process, he didn't make the cut. I could see the disappointment in his eyes. He had worked so hard for it. Early mornings, late-night practices, sacrificing time with friends. I sat down with him that evening, expecting frustration or anger. Instead, Barron surprised me. He said, "Dad, this isn't the end. It's just a detour. Maybe I wasn't ready, or maybe there's something better waiting for me. Either way, I'm not giving up." Trump's voice softened, a note of pride breaking through. That's when I knew Barron had something truly special. The resilience to see failure not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity. And let me tell you, every parent dreams of seeing that kind of strength in their child. Trump paused, then leaned into the microphone with a smile. You know, people often ask me what I've taught Barron. But the real question is, what has Barron taught me? The audience chuckled lightly, and Trump continued, "He's taught me patience, for one. Parenting isn't easy, especially when you're someone like me, who's used to fast results. But Barron made me realize that some things take time, like trust, understanding, and personal growth. He's also taught me to embrace change. When I became president, our family's lives were turned upside down. Barron, at such a young age, adapted better than I could have imagined. He reminded me that flexibility and openness are as important in life as determination." Trump's eyes gleamed with a mix of hope and pride as he spoke about Barron's aspirations. At 18, Barron has big dreams. He talks about using soccer as a platform, not just to play but to inspire. He wants to work with youth, especially kids who don't have access to the resources he's been fortunate to have. He once said to me, "Dad, if I make it, I want to bring others with me." That's the kind of mindset that gives me faith in the next generation. It's not just about personal success. It's about lifting others up along the way. Trump then shared how Barron's travels had shaped his worldview. One of the things Melania and I emphasized was the importance of seeing the world. Barron has visited countries across Europe, Asia, and Africa, and each trip has taught him something new. I remember after a trip to Kenya, Barron told me about the kids he met who played soccer barefoot using makeshift balls. He was so moved by their passion and determination that he decided to start a project to send sports equipment to underprivileged communities around the world. It wasn't just about charity, it was about connection. Barron understood that those kids weren't so different from him. They shared the same love for the game, the same dreams, the same desire to excel. And that understanding is what makes him a true leader in my eyes. Trump's tone turned reflective as he concluded his story. As parents, we often think about the legacy we'll leave for our children. But what I've realized is that the real legacy isn't in what we leave behind. It's in how our children carry it forward. Barron is my legacy, not because of his accomplishments, but because of the person he's becoming. He's compassionate, resilient, and determined to make a difference. And for that, I'm endlessly proud. The auditorium erupted in applause as Trump stepped away from the podium, his words resonating with every parent in the room. As the applause settled, Trump returned to his seat, but was soon encouraged to share more by an eager audience. Taking the microphone again, he smiled warmly. There's another side of Barron that I don't talk about much, his role as a mentor. When Barron turned 16, he started volunteering with a local youth soccer program. At first, he joined to refine his own skills, but over time, something incredible happened. He became a mentor to the younger players. I remember visiting one of his sessions and seeing him crouch down, eye to eye with an 8-year-old boy who had missed a goal. Barron said to him, "It's okay to miss. What matters is that you showed up, gave your best, and learned something today. Keep doing that, and one day you'll score more goals than you can count." That moment was a revelation for me. Barron wasn't just chasing his own dreams, he was helping others build theirs. Trump paused, his gaze sweeping the room. Every parent dreams of seeing their child become a leader. But true leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about showing them what they're capable of. Trump then turned to the delicate topic of balancing ambition with personal well-being. One of the hardest lessons I've learned as a parent is that success can't come at the cost of happiness. There was a time when Barron pushed himself so hard in soccer that he began to lose sight of the joy it once brought him. I remember sitting down with him and saying, "Barron, success isn't worth it if you're not happy. You can chase your dreams without losing yourself in the process." After that, he started carving out time for things he loved outside of soccer. Playing the piano, painting, even baking. And you know what? It made him a better player. It reminded me that balance is key, not just for our children, but for all of us. Trump shifted to another story that highlighted Barron's character. When you're in the public eye, criticism is inevitable. But how you handle it defines who you are. There was a time when Barron faced harsh comments online about his height and demeanor. I was furious, ready to step in and defend him. But Barron stopped me. He said, "Dad, I don't need anyone to fight my battles. If I let their words affect me, I'm giving them power they don't deserve." His maturity floored me. At just 17, he had already learned what it took me decades to understand. That confidence comes from within, not from the opinions of others. Trump continued with a story about Barron's growing interest in philanthropy. Earlier this year, Barron came to me with an idea, a global initiative to use sports as a tool for education and unity. He wanted to create programs where kids from different countries could connect through soccer, breaking barriers and building friendships. I asked him, "Why soccer?" He smiled and said, "Because it's a language everyone understands, no matter where they come from." That answer struck me. Barron wasn't just thinking about the game. He was thinking about its power to unite people. Trump looked out at the audience, his voice filled with pride. That's the kind of vision the world needs today. One that looks beyond borders and focuses on what brings us together. As Trump wrapped up his speech, he turned his attention back to the parents in the room. If there's one thing I've learned as a father, it's that parenting is a partnership. It's not just about guiding your child, it's about growing with them. I wouldn't be the person I am today without Barron and my other children. They've taught me patience, humility, and the importance of listening. They've reminded me that life's greatest achievements aren't measured in wealth or titles, but in the relationships we build and the lives we touch. Trump concluded with a glimpse into Barron's future. As Barron steps into adulthood, I have no doubt he'll continue to make an impact. Whether it's through soccer, community work, or something entirely new, he'll do it with integrity and purpose. And as a father, all I can do is cheer him on, just like every parent here today. Because at the end of the day, our children are our greatest legacy. They carry our dreams forward while building dreams of their own. The audience rose to their feet, applauding not just the words, but the heartfelt honesty behind them. Trump, once known for his commanding presence on the world stage, had shown a side of himself that resonated with every parent in the room. The side of a father proud of his son and hopeful for the future. As the applause subsided, Trump took a sip of water and leaned forward, as if preparing to share a deeply personal moment. There's one story about Barron that I haven't shared publicly before. It's a story that taught me something about the value of humility. Last year, Barron participated in a local community soccer league, not as a player, but as a volunteer coach for a team of underprivileged kids. He wanted to give back to the game that had given him so much. One day, as I watched from the sidelines, a little boy on his team fell and scraped his knee. Instead of just telling him to shake it off, Barron knelt down, cleaned the scrape, and spent the next few minutes encouraging the boy to get back on the field. Later, I asked him why he'd taken so much time to console the child instead of focusing on the game. Barron looked at me and said, "Dad, it's not about winning. It's about making sure everyone feels like they belong." That simple act reminded me of something important. In life, it's not the big speeches or grand gestures that define us. It's the quiet moments of kindness. Trump transitioned to another story, this time about Barron's thirst for knowledge. When Barron was 18, he decided to learn multiple languages. He told me, "If I want to connect with people around the world, I need to speak their language, not just literally but culturally too." He spent hours each week learning Spanish, French, and even a bit of Mandarin. It wasn't easy, but he stayed committed. One day, during a family trip to Spain, he surprised us by holding a conversation entirely in Spanish with a local coach. The pride in that coach's eyes was unforgettable. Barron taught me that real leadership begins with understanding and respecting others. It's not about imposing your will. It's about finding common ground. Trump then reflected on the mentors who had shaped Barron's journey. No one succeeds alone. Barron has been fortunate to have incredible coaches, teachers, and family members who've guided him along the way. But what makes me proudest is how he's taken those lessons and passed them on. Whether it's helping a teammate refine their skills or encouraging a friend to pursue their passion, Barron understands the ripple effect of mentorship. He knows that when you lift someone up, you're not just changing their life, you're changing the lives of everyone they'll touch. Trump's tone grew hopeful as he looked toward the future. As Barron steps into adulthood, I see in him a spark of possibility, a reminder that the next generation holds the key to a brighter future. He's passionate about using his platform to make a difference, whether it's advocating for youth sports, supporting educational initiatives, or bridging cultural divides. And while his journey is just beginning, I have no doubt that he'll face it with the same courage and conviction he's shown throughout his life. As the speech drew to a close, Trump addressed the audience with a heartfelt plea. To every parent here, I want to leave you with this. Never underestimate the impact you have on your children. The values you teach, the love you show, and the support you give will shape not just their lives, but the world they'll create. And to every young person listening, remember this. Your dreams are valid, your voice matters, and your actions can change the world. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Trump stepped back from the podium, his words hanging in the air like a promise. A challenge to parents and children alike to strive for greatness, not just for themselves but for the world around them. The crowd rose to their feet once again, their applause a testament to the universal truths he had shared. It was a moment that transcended politics and fame, a moment that reminded everyone of the power of family, resilience, and hope.